am a big fan of what I call labor-loaded gross margin. Labor-loaded gross margin is kind of a financial metric of particular areas of the business, and I like to separate. In a company that size, I would say you've got three areas: product sales, so just generally what product you're selling, which in a company that size I'd probably lump in resale of Office 365 and those kinds of things. Managed services, which is going to be anything that you're doing and not charging by the hour. And then professional services, which is anything hourly, project, whatever. And labor-loaded gross margin is the margin you're making when you look at the revenue minus the direct compensation. So anybody that's directly servicing that business, that piece of the business, and that you would not have employed if it wasn't for that business. And that might be fractional. It might be 50% of your time and 25% of somebody else's time and 75% of somebody else's time, right? So, there's that, and then there's the hard cost. So particularly in managed services, you'll have antivirus, you'll have RMM, you'll have some PSA license in there, or even a fractional PSA license, because again, if you didn't have that business, you wouldn't hire that third person, and so you wouldn't have that PSA license. So any of these direct costs. So if you simply subtract your costs from your revenue, you get some labor-loaded gross margin dollars. Divide that by the revenue, and you get your labor-loaded gross margin percentage. I think that's a really, really good metric for how areas of the business are performing. It doesn't just look at kind of overall bottom line things. It looks at what that area of the business is able to produce. And so typically managed services should produce a 70% or better gross margin percentage, a labor-loaded gross margin percentage. Professional services should be able to generate 60% or greater. Product sales depends on the company, but I would say 16% or more. Some of my clients that are able to do 25, 28%, that's hard in today's commoditized business. But if you look at those three things from a high level financial perspective, as opposed to trying to study your P&L, I would say that's something to adopt early in your business and really watch carefully. When you start looking by client, well, let me back up a second. So if you're larger than that, right, then I like to break out cloud services and recurring services. Cloud services being traditional cloud offerings that are not managed, and recurring services being things that are productized, that are products that you're selling, but you sell them in some sort of recurring basis. Examples of that are like web hosting, SSLs. If you just sold antivirus to clients and you did it on a monthly basis or an annual basis, I would consider that recurring revenue. So as you grow, I would break those items out of your product sales so that you have more particular kind of definition around that or preciseness around that. But when you're small, there's kind of a point of diminishing return because you're pretty much aware of what you're selling of each deal. It's easier to keep kind of a thumb on the details there, so it's not worth the effort necessarily. When you start looking at clients by client, that's where you start to get into the number of hours that you spend with those clients on a monthly basis relative to the dollars that you're charging them, particularly in managed services. Professional services, you're looking at project by project profitability, which again, in a small company, you're pretty much aware of the projects that went off the rails and you ended up with too many hours or whatever. But in managed services, you're looking at, hey, I'm charging them $1,000 a month and I used 10 hours. So if I take 1,000 divided by 10, I'm $100 an hour. Effective hourly rate should be around $125 an hour. So I like to do that. If I'm analyzing my clients, I like to kind of have an ABC type of analysis where my A clients are the ones that are kind of above that 125 mark. My B clients are maybe in the $90 to $125 effective hourly rate area, and then my C clients are below that $90 an hour effective hourly rate. And we should always be kind of analyzing that and looking for how to make our C clients B clients, our B clients A clients, and keeping our A clients A clients. That works really well. And you're going to have issues with clients that maybe an A client turns into a C client for a couple of months. I mean, that just happens. But as long as you're aware of where they fall in that mix and the reasons for that, and you're working to reduce those reasons so that they move back up to where they should be, which is hopefully an A client, that really kind of drives client by client profitability.